Hi, welcome to another Learn, Grow, Invest meeting. I'm Jermaine, one of the co-founders of this community. Today we have a very interesting discussion for you as a part of our entrepreneurship series. I'm going to be joined by Jalisa John from Trinidad, and we're going to be speaking about, the how to know when it's the right time to leave your 9 to 5 to be an entrepreneur full time. Now, I've battled with that question for myself. I actually left my job at one point to go and pursue entrepreneurship full time. But today, we're not going to talk about me. We want to hear from Jalissa, share her, perspective on the situation. What are some of the things to look for? And we're going to try and help you if you're battling with that decision to try and make it in a practical way, right? Because there are some things to think about, and you want to be sure you're making the right moves at the right time. So it's going to be a good session. I was really looking forward to this one, and so I reached out to Jalisa, and we found a way to make it happen. So if it's your first time here, as I said, I'm Jermaine, and what we do here at Learn, Grow, Invest is we speak about investing, entrepreneurship, personal finance, real estate investing, cryptocurrencies, etc. So we speak about anything and everything that revolves around finance and investing and entrepreneurship. So we are a Bible-based investment community. So we're going to open with a brief word of prayer. So let's go. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to learn from others. We pray, Lord, that this will be a fruitful discussion and that those who watch will be impacted and blessed in Jesus' name. Amen. So please allow me to welcome Jalisa. Hi, Jalisa. How are you?
Hi, Jermaine. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for accepting our invite. It's very good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, so am I. All right. So tell us, who is Jalisa John?
Well, hi again. As you said, my name is Jalisa John. I'm a Trinidad-based marketing consultant, and I basically teach people how to use social media for business. Since 2017, I have been transforming business owners into their company's biggest brand ambassadors by teaching them how to use social media for business through storytelling.
Great. That sounds awesome. And we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while, and I must say that I've learned a lot from you so far. So yeah, thank you for the work that you do. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you started your own entrepreneurship journey.
Well, when I tell this story, I like to start all the way back when I was like 15, right? I was in Form 3. And in Jamaica, you'll have Form 3, right? You'll go by forms, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I was in Form 3 and I was getting ready to go to Form 4. And at that point, you have to choose your subjects and you have to tell the teachers, what you plan to do as a career. And I was always into fashion. So as a young lady, I said, you know what? I want to be a fashion designer because that's what I naturally gravitate towards. So I wanted to do art and things like that. So I ended up in the business class. I wrote SATs. I got accepted to the Miami International University of Art and Design to study fashion design. And I was like, oh my God, yes, everything that I want is
Nice.
actually going to come through. Soon after I got accepted to the university, my parents, they called the school and they canceled my yeah, they canceled my registration because basically they realized they couldn't afford for me to go overseas and study fashion design. And after that, my teachers decided, well, you don't have enough time to do art because I was the only person in my class that had art class. So it wasn't on my timetable. So they weren't going to teach a class with one person in it. So it's like I got kicked out of art. But here I am, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do now? I guess I have to stay in Trinidad and just get a job, right? So when I finished CXC, I didn't want to go and do Cape. So I ended up working at the insurance firm where my mom was working. And her company was actually signing up people in a college here in Trinidad. And that college, they kind of persuaded me to join because they were like, "You're this young girl. What are you doing here with these insurance agents? Come to our college. You should sign up. And one of our programs would let you transfer credits to a university in Paris where you could finish your art degree." So I was like, "Cool. So what is this program?" And they're like, "The program here is business and entrepreneurship." And at
Ah,
that time, I've never heard of the word entrepreneurship. So I was thinking an entrepreneur is just someone who starts a business, right? It's another word for business owner. On the first day of my first course, I realized that an entrepreneur and a business owner definitely is not the same thing, right? Somewhere along the line, I kind of forgot about transferring my credits to Paris because I was falling so much in love with studying entrepreneurship and business. I was like, I don't need to go to Paris to study fashion design, to become a fashion designer, or even have an online store and things like that. I'm learning all of these business skills, right? So I opened, I think probably in my second year of college, I opened an online store. It was one of the first online stores here in Trinidad and Tobago selling women's clothing and
nice.
accessories. Yeah. And at that point in time, social media was kind of like a really new thing. And I just thought all you have to do is just post some pictures, some professional pictures, get a photographer, take some nice pictures, post it, and everyone would be buying. And that was not the case. I got the shock of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing like Facebook ads and working with influencers and doing all of the things, and nothing was working. And I got to a point where I had given away all of my inventory to influencers. I had used up all of my savings running Facebook ads, and I had nothing left. You know what I mean? And I just said, okay, I'm not going to use influencers anymore. I am going to become the influencer. Instead of giving away my clothes, I am going to wear my clothes, represent my brand. I'm going to be the walking billboard for my brand. And I started posting as if I were a fashion blogger. And almost immediately, sales to my website started to increase. But not only that, other business owners were sending me messages asking me, "Listen, who's your marketing team? I need them for my business." And I was like, "I am the marketing team. It's only me. It's only me. It may look like a whole production, but it's only me." And so in 2017, I started working secretly with other business owners. It wasn't something that I was, promoting publicly. Um, and I think in 2019 is when, after I actually worked with a few people and I developed a process and I got results, then I publicly came out as a marketing consultant. So I'm an entrepreneur with my own businesses, and I also help other business owners as well. So that's basically my story in a nutshell and how I'm here today.
That's an awesome story. That's an awesome story. So, I mean, at some point throughout, that journey that you just described, how did you know? I mean, you mentioned early on that you thought a business owner and an entrepreneur was the same, but take me from that point to the point where you realize, I am an entrepreneur. This is what I want to do. This is something that I love. Where how did you get to that point?
I think the biggest difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner lies in vision, right? A business owner starts a business because they want to make money, right? An entrepreneur will start something because they have this grand vision, this crazy big idea, this larger than life vision. And they also want to solve a problem. So the reason why I started my online store was because before then, everyone was ordering online. And if you wanted to order online, for example, from like Forever 21, you would use a skybox. So you would ship it to Miami, and then the skybox company would bring it here to Trinidad. And the entire process would take about 2 weeks, right? And I was like, well, what if I wanted to wear something tomorrow? Why do I have to wait 2 weeks for my outfit to arrive? And I
Yeah.
was like, what if I open an online store right here in Trinidad and Tobago? All of the products are in stock. You order it and you get it within 24 hours, right? So I had this larger than life vision at that point in time. It was something crazy, right? Because the idea of shopping online was still very, very new. And a lot of people did not have access to credit cards and were not yet comfortable shopping online. A very small portion of the population shopped online. So I knew there was a market for that. But I wanted to basically be the Trinidad version of Forever 21. So
Ah.
I think an entrepreneur is someone that has these big visions, and a lot of the time, other people might look at it and say, that's crazy, that's never going to work. So I remember telling both my mom and my dad that I wanted to start this online store, and they told me, no, they're not going to help me. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was
Wow.
like, oh my God, so where am I going to get the capital to start this business? Well, like I said, Jermaine, I was very fashionable, and both my parents live overseas. So I am accustomed going to America every July and August vacation. I would come back with suitcases full of clothes, and all my
Nice.
friends would like my clothes. So when I needed capital to start my business, guess what I did? I sold all of my clothes. I just kept one jean, my favorite jeans, and like two t-shirts, and I sold everything else from between like $5 and things that I've never worn. I would sell for like $20 until I had, I think it was like $1,500.
Wow.
Yeah, and I used that $1,500 to buy my first set of stuff for my business. So another thing that entrepreneurs vary from business owners with is that they're very risky. Like they don't mind taking a risk. You know, a business
Yeah.
owner, they sit down and they assess and, they try to make it make sense before they do it. But an entrepreneur is like, no, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. If that means selling all of my clothes, if that means knocking on all of my neighbors' doors and showing them my products, going door to door to get these things sold, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I like to think that entrepreneurs know how to do more with less, because we don't typically have a lot of resources when we're starting. So we have to figure it out.
Yes, I agree with that point.
Yeah. All right. So, but at what point specifically did you feel like, yes, I'm an entrepreneur?
When did I feel like I'm an entrepreneur? I don't
Or do you,
think
do
there
you
was.
feel like you're an entrepreneur now, or you're still trying to, get used to everything?
I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm an entrepreneur, I guess, but it's not something that I really think about, because I feel like an entrepreneur is who you are.
Mhm.
An entrepreneur is born. You can't even though I
Ah,
was studying entrepreneurship in school, I don't think entrepreneurship is something that you can learn to become. And here's a perfect example. So I
interesting.
still keep in touch with every single person who I went to this university with, this college, who studied entrepreneurship with me. And out of all of my friends, I'm the only one who has started several businesses since then. All of my friends from college, they work the 9 to 5. I mean, they've started businesses, but somewhere along the line, they've given up. And I think it's because it's not in them. And that's okay. That's okay. Like a lot of my friends who did not go to school with me to study entrepreneurship, they look at me and they say, should I start a business? I want to start a business. I'm like, are you mad? You have your job. You have a paycheck that's coming every month. Why would you, you know,
Yeah.
people don't understand what they're signing up for. They see the lifestyle and they think that's great. But I think an entrepreneur is who you are an entrepreneur. Like you can't learn to become an entrepreneur. So to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
there was never a point that happened that made me feel like, oh, yes, now I'm an entrepreneur. When I started studying entrepreneurship, I realized that I am an entrepreneur. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. So, I mean, I'm here thinking about this. I've heard this discussion before, or I've heard some person say, entrepreneurs are born, and then you're born that way, and then some persons think that entrepreneurs are made. So I was just kind of, going through that in my mind as you're
Yeah.
speaking, because I've always been a little bit of both, I guess. But the way that you described it makes sense to me, because maybe I was born an entrepreneur, but it was brought out in me by my, experiences,
Yes,
because I learned
absolutely.
entrepreneurship early. So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, like to add to your point, I did not even realize that I came from an entrepreneurial family until like a few months ago. I was thinking about it. My grandmother, she had a shop in front of our house when I was growing up, and she would sell like all of these sweets that are traditional to the Caribbean. She'd make like cupcakes and muffins and sugar cakes and kruma, right? And things like that. But it never occurred to me that my family's entrepreneurial. My mom, when I was in primary school and secondary school, she would do like boat rides. At carnival time, we would have parties in our backyard, like cool effects and things. But it never occurred to me that all of
Yeah,
these things, helped shape me or impacted my entrepreneurialism, if that's the word,
yeah,
in a way, until recently when I sat down and I thought about it. I'm like, wow, I come from an entrepreneurial family.
yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, so interesting. Okay, cool. So let's say that we're speaking to someone now who is not really sure if they're an entrepreneur or not, right? And let's say they maybe connected those dots, like you did. Maybe their parents were in business, or their grandparents, or their relatives, and they wanted to start their entrepreneurship journey. What would you advise them to do, right? So at the moment they have this idea, or they see a problem that they want to solve, what are the things that they should do?
I like this question because even though I distinguished between entrepreneurs and business owners before, and it may seem like business owners are less than entrepreneurs, what business owners have over entrepreneurs is their ability to assess risk, to think critically, to sit down and pause and actually determine, is this something that's viable? Is this something that I could actually make a living off of? Is this something that I can realistically achieve? For example, to that person who has an idea out there, I would say get a notebook. By the way, I sell really pretty notebooks on Amazon to help you with your brainstorming, right? Get a notebook and a pen and write down your idea. Write down what you think you need to bring that idea to life in terms of the equipment, the resources, the time, the capital, and assess if this is something you think you can realistically bring to market. And if the answer is yes, then go into the testing stage. Test your idea. Don't just jump full-fledged into it, right? Another point I want to highlight is that for years, we have perpetuated this idea of just start. We tell people if you have an idea for something, just start. I mean, you don't need to have it all figured out, just jump in there. And that's where people get into a lot of trouble,
And
right?
debt.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so one of my missions moving forward is to really let people know what they're signing up for. Assess the risk, right? Is it really worth what you have to give up to get what you want and, the results that you want? Are you willing to work on this business for the next 5 years without seeing any results? Are you willing to work on this business for the next 10 years without being able to comfortably pay yourself, right? The trips to Dubai and the vacations are not going to come overnight. Like, you are going to spend a lot of time in the trenches, in the mud, like really hustling for a really long time to get your big idea to come to life, unless you have a lot of support in the terms of people who have experience, mentors, and other resources, then you could do this really quickly. But most entrepreneurs, as you said, we don't have a lot, right? So we're trying to make a lot from the little bit that we have. And
Yeah.
I think anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur needs to really sit down and think if this is the road they want to go down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Fully agreed. Fully agreed. All right. So, specifically, we're covering this topic to help those who are currently working 9 to 5. They're working for a company, but they may be feeling like the bug to get something started on their own. Maybe they're not happy. Maybe they are, but there's a need for additional income, or they're just seeing problems that they think nobody else is able to solve quite like they can. How do you know that it's time to move from your 9 to 5 or your corporate job to pursue entrepreneurship?
Well, this is an interesting question because the reason I was able to identify it's time for me to move on is because I knew what I was making before I started the 9 to 5. So
Uh,
when I was pregnant with my first child, I put my business on pause, my online store. I put it on pause and I went and I got a job. And one day I looked at my paycheck and I was like, this this doesn't make any sense. I
yeah.
mean, the amount of money I worked for in a fortnight, I could make that in one day in a pop-up shop. The amount of money it would take me to make in 3 months on that job, I could make in 3 hours doing a strategy call with someone. So for me, it was looking at that paycheck and saying, this is not worth it. There's not
Yeah.
enough money there to, one, even pay my bills, and two, reinvest in my business. I think it's fine to stay at your 9 to 5 as long as you're making enough money to pay your bills and put some into your business as well on the side. But if that money from your 9 to 5 is not even sustaining you and helping you build your business on the side, then it's not really worth it. I mean, I'm spending 8 hours working on somebody else's business when I could spend 8 hours working on my business and reap more benefits financially. And that was the turning point for me. I was like, bye bye, I'm see you later. See you later.
Yeah.
But I only knew that because I had the business before I had the 9 to 5.
Okay. Okay. So let's drill down into that a little bit, right? So what if you don't know? So what if there was no prior experience? I've been working. Let's say, I mean, this person may be working in corporate for a while. Maybe it's all they've known. But as I said, potentially there's a glaring problem that they see that needs to be solved, right? So they have no prior experience. This may be their first time really confronting the potential to start a business. What would that person do? I mean, so you gave us some steps before to kind of validate the idea, which we definitely, that would be a starting point for them. But how do you, I mean, so you mentioned that the finances just have to make sense, but there's this great unknown for entrepreneurship, right? So even if you may have a situation that you see the potential to make more money, on an hourly basis, how do you know that it's time to take that leap? Like what's that one thing that they should really hold on to be able to take that next step?
I think you just know, you know, like it will happen at a different time for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no one thing that I could say will be like a magic pill. Like, if this happens, then leave your job. Definitely you want your business to be making money. I mean, that will make sense before you leave your 9 to 5, and not just making sales, but actually making profit. That's
Yes.
something that a lot of people get confused with. The sales that, the revenue from your business is not what you can just take and have that as your paycheck, right? You want to make sure that your business is profitable and that you could comfortably pay yourself. And you want to be seeing that result for at least a year consistently before you decide to leave. Because, as you said, entrepreneurship, I mean, business on the whole, you never know what could happen. You can make money this month and then not make money next month, right? So you want to make sure that it's consistent. When you're consistently making money in that business and it's profitable, then consider leaving. But for each individual, it would be different. Like, you would just know. So, for example, if I had a 9 to 5 right now and I was thinking about leaving, it would be very different. Like, the options that I would weigh before making that decision, different now. Because I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
I have 2 kids, mortgage, cars to pay, bills to pay. Back
Yeah.
then, when mom and dad were paying everything, then it was easy for me to walk away and go work full time on my business because they were taking care of the bills. But now I'm an adult. So that's why I said, for each person, you would have to weigh your unique situation and assess that for yourself and
Yeah.
really consider, is this really time for me to walk away? Because, I mean, what if you walk away this month, and how are you going to pay your bills next month?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree 100% because so I've been asked this question before as well, and I'm like, with each person, it's so different, right? So when I had my first company, things were going really poorly. So my wife was saying, just get a job. So I got that job. 8 months into that job, I was like, I can't do this. I have to go back full time, and so I did. And then I made a push. Things went really well. Business was growing, and then the 2008 recession came, and business just started to dry up. Cash was really just starting to disappear, and so we're able to go a few more years, but ultimately we closed that business in 2013. And so in 2014 I went to corporate, and I've been in corporate since, but I'm still an entrepreneur. I still think about ideas to solve problems almost daily. So what I've learned now is to leverage my spare time to get businesses off the ground while working in a 9 to 5 job that is fulfilling, that is the right environment, that pays me what I think I'm worth. And so both situations make sense. But ultimately, for my wife and I, long term, we're planning to be full time entrepreneurs at some point.
Yeah.
So, but for each person, it's just so different, and you really have to think about your responsibilities, because that would be a very key factor in your decision, right? Because if you have a mortgage, if you have car payments, if you have children to take care of, it's not as simple as just leaving and not knowing how you're going to take care of those expenses.
Yeah.
So everything that you said there is just perfect. Fully agreed with you. All right. So let's say that somebody has decided to take the leap. They've been doing it for a while now. They're not seeing any progress, not making as much money as they thought they would. What if they've taken that step, tried it, and it's just not working out? How do they decide whether or not they should just double down, or just maybe give up and go back to their 9 to 5 job?
You know,
Yeah, it's
wow.
one of those questions, right?
How to know when to give up. I
Or if you
mean,
should, or if you should give up.
I think about it several different ways. One, I think if you have to go back to your 9 to 5, absolutely do it and work on your business in your spare time. There's nothing wrong with having a job and using the salary from that job to inject into your business to get it to the next level. Because sometimes, or most times, businesses, all they need is some injection of cash, whether it be for marketing or for new product development, whatever it is. And an entrepreneur may not have that cash because of, no sales and things like that. You can use the salary from your job to run Facebook ads. You can use the salary from your job to develop new products, to order more inventory if it's an online store you have or whatever it is, right? Sometimes all you need is that cash injection. So I think if you have to, absolutely do it. And I know some people out there, they're going to cringe because they're going to be ashamed to go back to the 9 to 5. Because here's the thing, we're so busy thinking about how other people perceive us.
Yeah.
It stops us from doing what we have to do to get to the next level, or to get to the next point in our business. That shame of leaving, starting a business, and then having to go back
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what keeps people stuck in that business that's going nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So put your pride to the side. I mean, people are not going to care that much. People are busy with their own lives, but you do what you have to do. And that's just part of your story. Another way I think about it is, if you start a business and you fail, so what? You learned some amazing lessons that you can then take to help you improve a next business.
Yeah.
And this is all I talk about on social media, because that online store I started, every single time that I failed, every influencer I worked with that didn't bring traffic or sales, that was a lesson that I learned, right? Every Facebook ad that I ran that did not convert, that was a lesson, and it taught me ways to improve my advertising.
Yeah.
Every piece of clothing that I bought that nobody purchased, that taught me a lesson, about what people like.
Yeah.
So failures, I think we need to celebrate failures more. Failures get you closer to actually achieving your goal because of the valuable lessons that you gain from those experiences.
Yeah. Fully agreed. And I mean, so thinking back to when I had to close my store down, I did feel like a failure. I did feel like, I took this bold step. Everybody was proud of me. Everybody was saying, good job, Jermaine. And then now I had to close it. I was thinking, what would people think? How would I be able to, when somebody asks me about it, I'd be like, well, I'm working so and so now. And I thought about it from the wrong perspective. And you're right, because since I've been able to embrace what I'm doing now and the work that I get to do, full time, it actually feeds into the projects that I'm working on the side. And it's they're both a part of who I am. So it's not that it's either or, it can be both. And you're right. Funding is one of those things that a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs, I mean, you just don't have the cash. And so your 9 to 5 can help fund your business, and
Yep.
it can keep you going in those seasons where you can't get funding. Because one of the issues that we face as entrepreneurs as well is lack of funding, right? Because we hear countries say a lot, we care about the small business person, we care about the entrepreneur, but it's not as easy to get funding as it's advertised.
Yep.
So, or if you can get it, it comes at a high cost that may eat out your profits and it may not make sense. So if you can find a way to do both, find a job that you love, that you care about doing, that drives you, and use that to fund, something that maybe you care even more about, and then I guess just make that move to go full time at the right time. I think that strategy just makes sense, and so everything that you said there, I fully agree with. So, all right, so we've been talking about a lot. I know that we've given our audience a lot to think about. So the last thing I want to ask you here is, how should they define success and how should they define failure? Now, I know we spoke about the fact that we should celebrate failures and focus on learning, so on, but how do we define success, and at what point, if possible, should we consider something a failure and maybe I guess try and move on?
Okay, so I'll address failure first. I feel like if you've tried everything that you possibly know to do with that business to get it off the ground, to get it to grow, to, get more sales, like if you put your all into that, you've run every ad, you've worked with every influencer, you've promoted yourself on every social network, and it's still not taking off, then maybe it's not the right time for that business, and it probably wasn't a good idea. So put it to the back burner for now, right? I wouldn't say write it off as a failure because, I think everything is a lesson. But after you've tried everything that you can, give it a rest for now. You can always revisit it 10, 20 years later down the road, right? And we've heard stories where people brought things to the market and they were just too early. They were far ahead of their time, right? So you can always give it a break for now. How to define success? Again, that is going to be on an individual level. Success to me personally, how I define success in my life, I have several things that I look at. So the first thing I look at is, am I making real impact in the lives of people? Because remember, I'm an entrepreneur, so I didn't just start business to make money. Even though we understand that money is like the lifeblood of your business, right? I started it because I had this bigger vision. Yeah. So I look at, am I really impacting people? Like every piece of content I put out on the internet, are people taking it and actually implementing it in their life? Is it helping them to achieve a result? Right? So I look at that. And I also look at, is the media reaching out to me? And here's why. Because we're living in this social media era where traditional media like the newspaper and TV doesn't really matter that much for reaching your customers. Yeah. But when you earn media, like you have PR people reaching out to you, editors reaching out to you, and they want to put you in the traditional media, listen, you have done something worthwhile, right? You've earned that, right? I look at that, and then I also look at my peace of mind. Again, and this is why I refuse to be an employee, because I've seen my mom be an employee all her life and just be miserable, right? Just be miserable. I'm like, if I am an employee, I want to at least be happy. So if I find a company that makes me happy, then fine. But in my own company, I want to be happy. I don't want to be stressed. Like I didn't become an entrepreneur because I want to, be up all night thinking about certain things that are weighing heavily on my mind with regards to my business. I want to be at peace. I want to be happy. That doesn't mean that everything is going to be going smoothly in my business. Like I enjoy the process. I enjoy being in the dirt and the mud and all the things I said before, right? I enjoy those things, but I don't want the stress.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
success to me is peace of mind, happiness, knowing that I'm making a real impact and change in people's lives. And the way you determine that are people reaching out to you and just saying, hey, I saw your video with Jermaine. I listened to this podcast and I did what you said and sales exploded in my business or whatever. Or you gave me the confidence to start creating content on TikTok, whatever it is. That's how I determine my success.
yeah,
And for everybody, it will be different. Some people, their success is determined by how many times a year they could fly to Dubai and which fancy car they can get. And I mean, to each his own. But it's a
yeah,
very personal thing, you know, how you
yeah.
define success.
I fully agree. And for us at Learn Grow Invest, that's how we measure success by impact. So we want to hear persons' lives have been changed by our content. So that's a big measurement for us, and it's something that we really enjoy doing. So that happiness that you speak about gives us joy to do the things that we're doing. And yeah, it's when you find something that you love to do. Making money is important, but it's not what's driving you. And we've always thought that once you are solving real problems, then the money will follow, because persons are willing to pay for something that makes a difference for them. So it's one and the same. So I've had just a great time discussing this with you. I want you to tell persons how they can reach out to you. Yeah, I definitely know LinkedIn, but where else can they find you? What would make your services ideal for what they could be looking for?
Okay, so you can learn everything you need to know about me and get in contact with me on jalisajohn.com. There you will find links to my shop. You'll find my About Me page. For persons who are interested in social media marketing and how to navigate that, I offer consulting and I also develop marketing plans. So, like I said, jalisajohn.com. You can find everything there, all my links to my social media, Jalisa John on TikTok, on YouTube. I have a podcast called The First Step with Jalisa John. It was the #1 podcast last year during the
Nice,
pandemic in business
nice.
and entrepreneurship. So that's pretty exciting. Um, where else? I'm on Instagram, Jalisa John Company. I'm on Twitter, Pinterest, everywhere. Like I said, I teach people how to use social media for business. I'm on all the
You got it.
platforms, all the
Okay,
platforms.
cool, cool. All right, so what I'll do, I'll share all the links in the description of this video. So just check the links below, and you'll be able to connect with Jalisa. Thank you so much for being here. Great